Hello, welcome to the next lesson. In this one, we're going to cover the database structure and how to do a database backup and restore. So as we said before, DriveDM is not based off of a SQL system or a SQL database. It uses a built-in object-oriented database called Doc. All the documents and the data and the metadata are all stored together in a system of containers within the database folder that we use. The benefits are that it's a little faster for a large search. If you have a large amount of data, it's quicker to do like a full text search. Also, there's more security because there's no way of getting into the data itself through the tables. Normally in a SQL system, you have the metadata in the tables, but then the file resides somewhere else in a file system. Well, with DriveDM, everything's contained and the containers are encrypted, so there's no backdoor to the data or the metadata. It operates in a similar way as like a file structure on a Mac where you can use a spotlight and you're just searching all the metadata itself, which is cached in the RAM rather than going through all the tables and all the data. So it's a very quick search, it's very secure, it's easy to back up. As I showed you earlier when we were doing the install, we can pick where we want that database to reside. And here in the DriveDM administration folder on the desktop, there's a link to where that data is. And here we have all the containers for the data. Once this grows, it'll create a new container every 200 megabytes. So when you run a backup, really we're only backing up the most recent set of containers. So the backup process can be pretty quick. Apart from that, you don't really need to go in there so much. The most important thing here is if I go to the service controller and I go to settings, this is where I can recover a new system. Or move a database. So if I have a server that goes down and I need to recover an old database, you'll see that there's this BVD file. What we would want to do is add a new database here on the new server, which could be the backup database from the old one. And so what I would do is I would just move that whole data file to the new server, and I would browse here to that BVD file, which is sort of like a thesaurus file. And actually that'll include everything about the old system. All the UI settings, all the users, all the audit trails, everything will immediately be just as it was. So it's as simple as just moving that database folder and pointing to it from the new installation. If we wanted to move the database to a new physical drive, for instance, if we're running out of space, we don't want to do it manually. We want to actually use this move database tool. It'll tell us how large it is and that the service will be stopped and the users will be logged off, but that's the only way that you want to move a live system if you're not doing a backup. The other thing that we touched on briefly earlier was the backup policies for DriveDM. The one thing that you're definitely going to want to do is to run the daily database rebuild. That's going to clear all the irrelevant links, and it'll clean up all the data and look for any issues. It'll just keep the system running a little quicker. It'll also compress some of the older deleted files and remove that data from the older containers. So when you run that, it's actually going to prevent any users from logging on. And you'll see this note down here that you want to make sure that the backup doesn't run during that time. And there are actually backup start and backup end batch files that we can use that are in the batch files folder that you're going to want to run before and after a file level backup. What we don't want to happen is any of those containers to be open by a user or by the DriveDM rebuild while the backup runs, because it could corrupt it. So if you're using a file level backup, make sure that we use these backup start and backup end batch files before we do that. And also make sure that the database rebuild is not set to run at the same time as that file level backup. Now, if you have an image level backup where you're taking an image of the whole drive, then this is not really necessary. That's going to run in the background, and you can just run the database rebuild whenever you want. I guess probably in the middle of the night. So the installation and the maintenance for the database is very simple. We'll show you in a later video a tool that we can use to get all the data out of the DriveDM database. It's free, it's included, it's very simple to use, and we can sync all the data in its original file format from DriveDM to a folder or an external drive somewhere with the metadata. So we want to make it very easy to get your data out of the system if you ever chose to do that, or if you had an auditor and you needed to do that. So just because it's in this object-oriented system, it's still very easy to work with the data and get it out.